Recording in progress.
Yes, guys, good morning and welcome to another training. So we're going to build on last week a little bit and continue to focus on this journey of our life, and results will be very often based on the outlook of the world that we create. So we very often talk about self-beliefs in terms of what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about what we can achieve, what we believe about other people, what we believe about the past, what we believe about the future. But also we highly discussed what we believe about the world and the rules that we make for the world, the rules that we make for life, the rules that we make for pretty much everything, because we all have a set of rules. We all have a set of beliefs. We all have a set of values. And those rules, those beliefs, and those values are what create our identity. That's what tends to create our behavior. And then that's what tends to create our view of what happens and why and how we move forward. So we need to get to grips with, are we creating a set of rules and beliefs that make it easy for us to succeed? Or are we creating a set of rules and beliefs that make it very, very difficult to succeed? Because what we need to realize is, and this is so hard to get to grips with, especially if you are struggling and maybe feeling out of alignment with the way you want to feel in terms of focus and happiness, is that we are in charge of how we feel. And we so often put that responsibility into the hands of the world, into the hands of other people, into the hands of our partners. And then without even thinking about it, because it's become a pattern that we run, we then make it their responsibility and their fault, the world's fault, our partner's fault, our ex's fault, anyone's fault, as to why we are feeling the way we are, why we are where we are, why we're struggling with what we're struggling with. It's a classic victim mindset. And all I can say, and you guys have heard me say this a million times, right? As long as you or I are continuing to blame anyone else in life for anything at all, you're always going to stay stuck and you're always going to feel like crap. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. But very often it's easier for us to keep telling that story rather than taking the ownership and moving forwards. So again, when we're talking about empowerment and disempowerment, which we've discussed over and over and over again, last week was about learning to not try and control the uncontrollables, wasn't it? Not just control the controllables. But for instance, if you are a person that in whatever area of life fears rejections, and you've created this rule that everyone always rejects you, everyone always says no, everyone always hurts you, all these types of things, everyone always disagrees with you, then you've made it very easy for yourself to feel unhappy, because you're already saying that everything that's negative already is, and that's just the way it is. That's not true. And that's what we need to change. So even just thinking of rejection, whether it's a career or a relationship or any of these things, what about if we just switched it to rejection is not an emotion that I feel because I'm not in control of the outcome. I'm in love with the process. This is how when I coach people on sales, right? People who are terrible at sales go into the call thinking about money, wanting to make money, wanting to make the sale. People who go into many conversations, go into the conversation needing to prove they are right. People go into any form of coaching program or any type of thing obsessing about the outcome because we have an inappropriate need for certainty, and how not being certain and not getting the thing that we want might make us feel. So again, classic example of this is we then don't take the action until we have certainty on the outcome, and then always stay stuck. Like, there's some people that I would never dream of working with in terms of a coaching perspective, because they're in this place and I know I can't help them. So when they inquire, they are literally saying to me, "Hi Lee, I've seen your plan with Dom. I saw you post on Thursday last week where Dom lost 7 stone. If I sign up with you, can you guarantee me I will lose that weight, and how long will it take?" And my honest reply is, can I? F***K. Because I can't guarantee that. They might be a person that has the habit of never going to the work, never going to the gym, always making it someone else's fault, signing up to a plan and then ghosting me and disappearing after 2 to 3 weeks, or any other things that I could throw into that. So I can't guarantee them the outcome, and I'm really honest about it. You know, I think people, like, this is what's bad in the world with marketing as well. Business coaches who offer money back guarantees, or coaches who offer money back guarantees, are absolutely, one, off their crockers, and two, it's a BS marketing approach to give the person certainty so that they will then get the client and make the money, and they're giving certainty that they can't guarantee. And then if the person doesn't get the result, they'll explain to them, well, it was because you did X, Y, and Z, and that was in your contract, and you didn't do that, and you didn't track your food every day, and you know, you didn't check in on this date. So, you know, that money back guarantee that I offered you is actually void. So it's actually just a trick, because nobody can guarantee you anything in life. We've said this, haven't we? The only thing that will ever be certain is that life is always uncertain. But this is when we're moving into empowered versus disempowered. So if we're driven by certainty and significance, or addicted to certainty and driven by significance, then we'll always have a disempowered version of the world. Because what will happen is the focus will always be on what you want to get, where you want to get to, how fast you can get there, who needs to help you, and why you're not there already, and whose fault that might have been. So what I want you to understand is that there's just one shift that will change the world. And that's rather than how can I get more? How can I put the results of my life and my emotions and my feelings in the hands of somebody else, so that if it doesn't work out, I can make it their fault? And how can I get absolute certainty on life before I move forwards? 2, how can I change? What beliefs do I need to work on? What behavior patterns do I need to change? Who can I find to help me, but not make it their responsibility, because I understand the work's down to me? Now, people who are anxious, stressed, worried, overwhelmed, disempowered, all of those emotions are always focused on themselves, why they're not where they want to be, potentially whose fault it is, what's going on that they're not in control of, what doesn't fit their models of the world. And almost certainly I'm going to discuss this further in the training, and it's quite deep. You guys know I've had experiences myself and worked with multiple people who have been suicidal, that they don't have an exciting vision of the future. They don't have a compelling vision of the future. So they're focused on themselves, they're focused on how they're feeling, and they're focused on what they don't have. Now, we can change all of this by asking better questions. And I've listed out a load of questions here because this is a big, huge, monumental thing that I realized this weekend. You've heard me speak multiple times before about how questions are the steering wheel of the mind. So if you want a better life and you want more progress, ask yourself better questions. So rather than that didn't work for me, well, why didn't that work for me? What's the reason? You can't just say something doesn't work for you. That there has to be a reason. So, and we can switch this because honestly, I promise you, this is like your brain sometimes doesn't understand. And this is why I heard Peter use a great analogy on this. If you see a child walking towards you with a glass of water or a plate, and you say, don't drop the plate, don't drop the plate, or don't drop the glass of water, or be careful with the glass of water. How often do we do that? And almost the second you've said it, they drop the plate or they knock the glass of water over, because all the brain heard was the thing and then don't. Now, if we can switch that to a better statement, and this isn't a question, so hold on to that plate really tightly. That is a huge brain shift. Don't drop the plate, hold on to the plate really tightly. You're giving a direct direction, you know what I mean, instruction on what to do, not an instruction on what not to do. And that is a brain shift, which we're going to come on to. But this all builds into the same process of asking the question. So if you ask your brain, why am I not good enough? It's going to come up with a whole load of answers. It's just going to do exactly what you asked it. It's like ChatGPT. Why does nobody ever love me? It will come up with a whole host of reasons as to why nobody loves you. Why do things never work out for me? It will come up with a whole host of reasons. I could go on and on and on those. Why do I keep repeating the same behaviors? Why do I insert any form of negative habit? Why do other people insert any form of other negative behavior that you believe other people do towards you? Why can't I insert thing, lose weight, make more money, be happier, have a loving relationship? Any of those negative questions that you ask your brain, it will give you the answers back all day long. And that is why so many people stay stuck. Because they ask the same questions over and over and over and get the same answers over and over and over and wonder why they stay stuck. So if we switch the better questions to, what do I want out of life? Why can I achieve this? Who do I need to become in order to achieve that goal? Because everything you have done in your life, you once believed you couldn't. And this is what we're going to come on to. So we finished on talking about creating a vision that excites you, creating values and beliefs that are needed to achieve the outcome, and creating leverage to do the work, how to learn to say I can versus I can't, how to believe you can versus believing you can't, and switching your language, which is what we're really going to come on to in today's training, so we can take charge of your thoughts, take charge of your beliefs, take charge of your actions, Take charge of your model of the world so you can stop being at the mercy of your environment and other people. So let's crack on. So most of us, and certainly all of you, because you wouldn't be watching this if not, are driven by a desire to want more. You want a better life. You might want more fat loss, you might want more fitness, you might want more love, you might want more clarity, more focus, more money, more growth, more wealth, more contribution, a happier life, and all of these things, which is great, right? But this, again, going back, is the key thing that I learned this weekend, and I'm like, that is so true. And I think I actually already had this lesson about 2 years ago, but sometimes we need, the universe and life needs to give us the same lessons multiple times before we sit up and smell the roses, so to speak. So being driven by the desire of wanting more in all areas of life is great, because that's the compelling vision of your future. That's what people who can become suicidal don't have. The big goals and the big dreams and the big futures, they are very, very important. But here's the challenge with this. With goals and desires and dreams and constantly wanting to achieve more, there's no finish line. There's never, ever a finish line. So if we've fallen into the habit, and this is me in a nutshell, how can I achieve more? How can I get more? How can I get a better body? How can I get more happiness? How can I get more love? How can I make more money? How can I achieve more? How can I become more successful? Which is a question that many people ask. It will honestly often lead to a road of complete unfulfillment, because it's a never-ending cycle. Now, all of these things, this is what I'm really starting to get to grips with, guys, now. Every one of these situations, most of our beliefs, most of our values, most of our actions, most of what we tell ourselves often has an upside and a downside. So they're not wrong. We just need to learn how to more channel the upside rather than the downside. Now, the upside of always wanting to achieve more and be better and be driven and be focused is exactly that. You'll be driven and focused. And you'll probably become successful. The downside is there's no finish line to constantly chasing goals. So unless we balance it out somewhere in the middle, you're going to constantly feel unfulfilled. Like you're never enough. How many times have we discussed that? If you're constantly obsessed with achieving more, you're never going to feel like you're enough, because where does it end? So when we get locked in this place and only this place, which it can be a great place at times, we never take the time out to appreciate what we already have. We never take the time out to appreciate that it's okay to want more, but we're already enough as we are. Does that make sense? Now, one of the easiest ways to feel happy today, which I'd like you to take away, is rather than what do I need to add more to feel good enough, what do I need to add more of to move forward, what do I need to change to feel happy, where do I need to improve, and we're still going to come on to all of this. What beliefs do I need to change? What values do I need to change? What identity do I need to change? Who do I need to become to stop feeling this way that's out of alignment with how I want to be? But what if we could just ask this one question today? That doesn't require you to remove anything. So it doesn't require anything to go on the not to-do list or the non-growth habits. And it doesn't require you to add anything extra in order to feel like you're good enough? How can I make my current life more joyful and contribute to the world by enjoying the moment? That's it. How can I experience more joy in what I already have without needing anything else, without needing to add anything, without needing to stop anything? Because that is a grounding moment, I think, that when you're one way or the other, that question will ground us and bring us back. So whatever is happening in the moment, how can I appreciate it? How can I enjoy it? What lessons am I learning? And the greatest question of all, what's the magic in this situation that I haven't yet realized? That's huge. That can snap you out of any difficult challenge. And again, when you think about it, as I said, whatever questions we ask our brain, this is absolutely brilliant, this one, if I do say so myself. Whatever questions we ask our brain, just like ChatGPT, it will always give us the answers, but only 100% of the time. Why am I not good enough? It will tell you. It's like Google. Why am I good enough? It will tell you, just like Google. That is an almost identical question, but which way you ask it will frame your future and will frame your life. So if you think about starting to highlight today and do the deep work and write this down, what are the number one questions I need to ask myself every day? What are the questions I need to wake up and ask every day? Am I asking myself the right questions? Because I very much still get locked in this. How can I achieve more? How can I find more happiness? How can I get where I want to be? How can I get there quicker? How can I protect myself? How can I feel safe? And this is all the wrong focus, because there is no certainty in it. How can I heal the past? How can I improve? Like I said, there's an upside and a downside. If you're focused on how you can always get better, then you'll probably always be improving. Upside. If you only focus on how you can achieve more, you're probably never going to feel like you're enough. Because it will never, ever, ever end. So rather than that, I think this is a great question for everybody to take away today. Without needing anything else, how can I just enjoy life more? That's a great question. And your brain will find the answers. So another key place where this happens with questions, you guys who own your own businesses, which is the majority of you, this is a question you ask yourself. I wish Stacey Pears was watching, because Stacey, you ask yourself this question every day. How can I get more done? How can I achieve more in each day? How can I become more productive? Because I never have enough time. Guess what? If you tell your brain you never have enough time, what's it going to believe? You never have enough time. If you ask your brain, how can you get more done? It's probably going to tell you that you don't have enough time and that you can't. So what about if this, rather than this constant rat race of how do I do more? How do I lose more weight? How do I make more money? How do I get more done? How do I become more productive? How do I get up earlier? How do I run further? How do I lift more? How do I do any of the things that are more? Because I'm a go-getter and I'm an achiever and I want to achieve more and I want everything to be right. And when everything's right, then all my rules will be fitted and I'll be happy. Only for the rules to change and a new set of goals to appear. Hamster wheel. So what about the next time you're stressed, the next time you are talking about what you don't have, the next time you are wondering how you can get more done in less time, you ask yourself this one simple question: how can I just slow down? How can I just slow down and enjoy the moment and life a little bit more without needing anything or anyone? Now, as I said, there's a flip side, there's an upside and a downside to all of these. So I think if we just focused on that every day, and we didn't have the goals, and we didn't have the dreams, and we didn't have the aspirations, and we didn't have the desires to achieve the things that we want to move forward, then we'd probably slip too far the other way. But as I said, this is what I'm realizing with the upsides and the downsides. I think that everything we need to see both sides and experience both, as when we've talked about the emotions. You can't experience love without hate. You can't have courage without fear. You can't have happy without sad. All of these things, we have to experience both sides of the spectrum. And wanting life just to be all about love and never experiencing hate, or to be all about courage and never experiencing fear, or wanting to be all positive and never negative, and constantly achieving more and never going backwards, that's the one-way road and the hamster wheel to unhappiness. Because we're arguing with reality. We're back at what we discussed last week, which is trying to control the uncontrollables. We can't move forward every single day, every single week. We can't constantly be achieving more. Sometimes we just need to break that burnout cycle and have a period when we're like, I'm just going to enjoy this for a bit now. 4 weeks, I'm just going to enjoy life. I don't need anything more. I don't need anything extra. I don't need to lose weight every fucking Sunday to feel like I'm good enough. I don't need my turnover in my business to go up week and week and week and week to feel like it's succeeding. I don't need my relationship to be blissfully happy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and if not, there's a problem. I just need to live in the moment a bit more and enjoy it and realize that all things will have an upside and a downside. Now, the reality is with this, most of these beliefs of the world, or the model of the world, beliefs about life, basically how we see life, how we see the world and people and circumstances and situations in it, and our own emotions, and you guys know this is massive for me, are very often formed by a significant event. So what you believe is the result of an event. What you believe about the world is the result of an event. What you believe about people is the result of an event. Now, normally, in so many people, this actually goes back to childhood events, because this is when our beliefs are shaped the most. They're not shaped deep into adult life. They were often created very early. So this might be what your beliefs have become based around a situation or a circumstance that happened that made you feel a certain way, and you've carried that all the way into your adult life. Or it might be a belief that was pushed upon you. I joke about it, but everyone in our family's always been big. All rich people are evil. Don't trust people. All men are wankers. I'm joking about it, but if you grew up with a mother who had a history of toxic relationships and had come to the belief that all men are bad, no men can be loved, don't trust men, all men are narcissists, you will from a young age have probably carried that belief into adult life. If your overweight father who's drank 10 pints 3 to 4 times a week, smoked cigarettes, binged on junk food, but told you the belief that everyone in your family has always been big, that will be a belief that you've created. If you grew up in a family that lived in poverty, but the parents never did anything about it, they never tried to change their careers, they never tried to change their jobs, and they kept saying things like, no one in our family's ever had money, all rich people are evil, money doesn't bring you happiness, no one in our family's ever gone to university, everyone in our family's always done X, that will have become your belief. So it's not your fault, but it might still be shaping the way you act in certain circumstances. So it could be the significant childhood event, you guys all know mine, that shaped the way I behaved for years. Or it could be the belief that was actually preached to you by your peer group, or you had peer pressure, or you did things that led to you behaving a certain way to get approval and love for others. Now, we all have a story, and many people still hide behind it. That's the switch that will change your life. We have to stop hiding behind the story. We have to stop hiding behind the false belief, because that's what it is. We have to stop blaming the parents, stop blaming the ex-husband, stop blaming the 20 ex-partners you've been through, who you believe it was all of their fault. There's one common denominator in those 20 relationships, and that's you. Stop looking external, start looking internal. If you constantly have the habit of falling out with other people, start looking internal, not external. If you've fallen out with every single person in your family and every single person in the workplace and all your friends and X, Y, and Z, again, I would put forward that the one common denominator is you. But it's easier to hide behind the story. It's easier to tell the belief that you've been given, and it's not your fault. But it's just where your mind is. So, line under it. Whatever it is, whatever the beliefs are that are holding you back, whatever the values are that are holding you back, whatever the rules that you've created that are holding you back, starting today, you and I can change it. Right now, right this second. And that's a decision. Keep telling yourself the same narrative or change it. That's your responsibility. That's my responsibility. And it's a choice and it's a decision. And the choices and the decisions that we make are what will shape our future. So let's put this into loads of really quick categories and write down where yours are currently. And then we can move on to how to fix it. So, pain, frustration, disappointment, overwhelm, stress, depression, feelings of low self-worth, self-doubt, and all the things that every human experiences pretty much on a daily basis. They generally come into categories. So, as we've discussed already, rules and beliefs that make it impossible for us to feel like we're good enough, but really easy to make us feel like crap. An example is a human that has kids that is absolutely obsessive about their house being completely tidy and spotless all the time. You're arguing with reality. The second you get it completely spotless and tireless and spotless and clean, something's going to happen. You know, every single thing in your workplace needing to be absolutely perfectly in place. All the wheels spinning at once. The second they are, one of the wheels is going to fall off and you're going to go back to the stress, the anxiety and the overwhelm. So that's a big one, wanting everything to be perfect all of the time. Because we're arguing with reality. Remember, we've discussed this at length. Life's not about being happy all the time. It's about being authentic. And as I've just discussed, understanding that there's an upside and a downside to every situation, circumstance, and emotion. So, as I said, I was going to discuss this, but so our rules and beliefs, so what makes us unhappy, experiencing overwhelmed depression and learned helplessness. So this will always be down to where your primary focus is at. This will always be down to where your questions are. What questions you're asking. Like I said, if you keep asking why you're not enough and why you don't have enough, and you keep stating what you don't like about life, what emotions you're experiencing that you don't like, what's happened and why and whose fault it was, the past, you'll always feel like crap. If you talk about what you don't like about other people, this is the biggest shift when I've healed hundreds of relationships, or certainly got them out of the we're about to kill each other and one of us is about to leave the house phase. What's 10 things you love about her? What's 10 things you love about him? And that will shift the focus. And we went through this with a great, can I talk about it? Yeah, I can. Went through this with a client this week. I won't say who it was, but it was a job loss. And we asked the question. You could ask the question, why did I lose my job? Why did I get made redundant? Why did I get sacked? Why did they treat me like that? We can ask the question, what's the magic in this situation that I haven't yet noticed? What's 10 reasons I'm grateful she left? What's 10 reasons I'm grateful I lost that job? Well, the job wasn't working for the individual anyway, and within 24 hours, they'd found a happier career. So the being made redundant was actually a blessing in disguise, because they may not have found the courage to leave the job and find the new one, which is more now happy and fulfilling. Exactly the same with relationships. We can blame the person, the situation, and the circumstance, or we can take the primary focus onto why we're grateful it's happened. What was the magic in the situation? How can we use it and apply it moving forwards? That will change your life. But the consistent trait of all people who are very unhappy, borderline suicidal, depressed, whatever we want to call it, is always that they aren't focused on a vision of the future and where they want to go. In fact, they don't have any vision of their future. That's why they believe, what's the point? That's why they believe it would be less painful to just end their own life, because there is no future, there is no vision. So, it's what's the point? How can I go on kind of, vibe. They live within the illusion that, they'll be in less pain. But this comes down to where the primary focus is. So again, the focus is on what's happened, how you're feeling, how you don't want life to be, what's not working for you, who's hurt you. And we flip that into the primary focus being, how do we want life to look? What's our mission? What's our purpose? Where do we find focus? Where do we find meaning? What do we want to move towards? Because when you have a vision, when you have a purpose, when you have meaning, when you have something every day that you're getting up and working towards, and it isn't just about you, that's when things change. So another key pain point is needing to have control, confidence, and insecurity issues. So all of these, bear with me, this won't make sense. All of these come from a self-love image and a fear of not being loved. And we all experience this. I don't believe that any one of you doesn't have some form of self-image issue at some point. So we try to control things. Boredom is a key sense of unhappiness. No sense of meaning, no passion, no goals. We feel uninspired. And as I said, this can lead to, the what's the point kind of mindset. Other things that can characterize these beliefs and these values and this unempowered, disempowered version of the world that makes us feel unhappy, addiction. Now, I'm not talking about a stone cold crackhead or, a homeless alcoholic, but many people are still using food, drugs, gambling, alcohol, porn to meet their needs because they're not being met elsewhere, because they believe that they don't exist in the world and they can't get them from anywhere else. That's why people do all of those things. If you had a compelling vision of the future, if you were focused on where you were going and what you need to do, not what's happened and not what's working for you and how it's making you feel, then you wouldn't need any of those things to feel happy, to feel content. Fear of loss issues are a massive one. This comes down to the certainty, fear of losing loved ones, fear of losing your money, fear of losing your job, fear of losing security. These are all building into these beliefs. This will make sense, trust me. Love, rejection, and relationship issues. Constant source of unhappiness in people's lives. But again, it's taking the old beliefs and the old values and no self-love or no self-trust into a new relationship and looking for someone else to bring what you don't have. That's what creates a disempowered model of the world. Needing someone else to bring what you don't have. Because then the relationship's not based on love and connection. It's based on a codependency. So this is why people become obsessive and on top and push people away in relationships. Because the second they get someone that they think's gonna complete them, you complete me, and make me feel a certain way and fill the void in my life and stop my unhappiness and make me happy, they smother them with infection because they're petrified of losing them. So the whole relationship starts from fear of loss because they're looking for someone to complete them because they don't feel like they're enough on their own. And when you feel like that and you haven't developed the self-love and you don't feel like you're enough on your own, you will always be afraid that the other person will leave because you are codependent on them to make them happy. This is why people are paranoid in relationships, asking their partner every 2 seconds, is everything okay? Have I upset you? To the level where the partner's like, oh, just fuck off. We've all been in one of those relationships or friendships. Not replied to a text message for 4 hours. Have I done something to upset you? It's that obsessive control for that fear of rejection. Now we have identity issues, which are another problem. So usually because you're confused, and this could be identity issues about sexuality, about health, about values, about beliefs, about your career, about politics, about being single or being in a relationship, about your parents, about previous physical or emotional abuse. So identity issues are a key source of pain. This is my favorite part of this training. It's not the event. It's what you make it. It's not what happened in your career with your parents, the abuse, the setback, the adversity, the challenge. The problem is all of those things have created your identity. And then you've got confusion in the identity because the identity of who you are or who you've become is out of alignment with who you want to be. Now, why I love this phrase so much. In any of the circumstances and situations, it's not the event or what the other person did or what happened in the world or how it made us feel that makes or breaks our future. It's not the event, it's what you make it mean. And the best story in the world on this is the two sons of the alcoholic father. One of them is struggling through life as another alcoholic drunk, blaming, complaining, and justifying drifting through life, just can't wait to get home from work to have a drink, can't wait for the weekend to get a drink, angry, reactive. Whilst the other son is a hugely successful businessman. He's ambitious. He's in a loving relationship. His wife is his queen. He'd never think about treating her the way his dad treated his mum before she left. He's caring, he's kind, he's empathetic, he's hardworking. When both men were asked why they were the way they were, they both responded exactly the same thing. Because my father was an alcoholic. That is one of the most poignant stories I've ever heard. Does that make sense? It wasn't their father's fault. It's not your ex's fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not what happened's fault. It's not the world's fault. It's not the event. It's not the situation. It's not the circumstance. It's your beliefs around it and what you made it mean. And it's not your fault either if you've gone the other way. But it is your fault if you choose not to change. Because your decisions and what you make every single thing that happens in this world mean is what will shape your future the most. And I get it. It's exactly what I did. Look at the story that I told myself for years about my mum and my dad and how it was different for me. And I can use this as a very easy get out clause to stay the same and carry on drinking and partying and punching people and all the other negative stuff. But every single situation or circumstance or any of those previous pains that I've just discussed and why they happen, and we all have all of them, you can use each and every situation, circumstance, pain, emotion, feeling, experience, and everything in between. You can use it to either empower you to success, like the son of the alcoholic father, or you can use it to disempower you and tell you a story about how everything is someone else's fault. That's a fucking decision. That's a choice. And you're in charge of that. Now, all of those pains, all of those struggles very, very often hold us back. But I would say one of the biggest pains in the world that encompasses all of the pains that we've just discussed. So the pain of overwhelm, depression, learned hopelessness, the pain of frustration, the pain of needing to control, the pain of confidence and insecurity issues, the pain of boredom, pain of addiction, the pain of fear of loss, the pain of love, the pain of rejection, the pain of confused identity, the pain of fear of death, the pain of dying too soon, the pain of not seeing your kids grow up, the pain of disease, the pain of panic, the pain of anxiety, the pain of running out of time, the pain of not feeling like you're good enough, the pain of perfectionism, the pain of procrastination. They all hold us back. But if we want to wrap them all into one, I don't know what I'm doing here. If we want to wrap them all into one kind of circle that I hope will make them all make sense, is all of them come down to the needs that you have created not being met. And that's our responsibility. Why do you think people end relationships or cheat? Because their needs aren't being met. Why do you think people constantly moan about their careers? Because their needs aren't being met. Why do people go out and do all of the negative habits to get the dopamine hit? The buzz of the drugs, the drink, the girls, the gambling, the porn, the whatever. because they're not getting any dopamine in their life. So their dopamine needs aren't being met. You can get dopamine from hundreds of other places. Jumping in lakes, running marathons, going for walks, helping other people, abseiling, walking up mountains, traveling, going out for nice. You can get dopamine everywhere. They're just choosing to get it from a negative place because their needs aren't being met. But when our needs aren't being met and we are not being true to our values and our beliefs, so all of these things are misaligned, that will always cause conflict and chaos in our head. And when we have conflict and chaos in our head, we will always have conflict and chaos in our life. If we try to control the uncontrollable, you'll always be afraid. You'll always be anxious. You'll always be stressed. Because the reality is you can't control shit, and nor can I. So by trying to have certainty, trying to have safety, smothering the person in the relationship and over loving them because you're petrified that they're going to leave you, because you're not enough on your own, that will always make you feel that way and out of alignment. And that's what we need to fix. And that's what we're going to come on to with some better questions. So this is a classic one around needs and rules that we make to make it very, very difficult for us to achieve. No worries, Carl. I'll upload ASAP. Have a great day. It's going back to things being based around a feeling or an emotion or an event, and then becoming frustrated when it doesn't end up panning out our way. So we make rules that make it impossible for us to succeed and only feel like we're good enough half of the time. So we try to control the uncontrollable, and that's where the frustrations comes from. So we might say, by the way, if this is any of you, buy a Peter Storm waterproof and man/woman/unicorn up. I'm going to go for a run tomorrow, but only if it's not raining. I'm going to sign up and join the plan, but only if I know I'll succeed. I'm going to love someone, but only if I'm assured they'll never hurt me. I'm going to buy someone a drink as long as I know they're going to buy me one back. I'm going to give anything as long as I've got an expectation that it's going to be given back to me. I'll join your plan, Lee, if you promise me I'll lose 20 pounds in 30 days. You can't control any of that. You can't control whether someone's going to love you or not. So if you only love them, if they're going to love you, can you see how flawed it is? If you're only going to go to the gym when you know that you'll only feel a certain way when you're there, you'll never go. I'll only go for the job if I know I'm going to get it. I'll only ask the girl or boy out if I know they're going to say yes. Now, what happens is we have to understand that we can't associate our happiness, our self-worth, our beliefs, our actions, our decisions, our choices on things that we can't control. Because if you only take action on things that you believe you can control, then one, you're never going to take action, and two, you're making it impossible to be happy. Because if you don't get the outcome you want, then you're going to go back to experiencing all those pains and looking somewhere else. So a fast track to unhappiness and getting absolutely nowhere is exactly that. It's a one-way road to frustration and disappointment. I'll only do the thing if I know the outcome. I'll only love if I know I'm not going to get hurt. I'll only trust if I know my trust isn't going to get abused. Well, you're then taking a model of, let's say that was in a relationship, you're then taking a model of, I don't trust people, and I've got my barriers up, and I don't love easily, and I don't X, Y, and Z. You're taking that into the relationship, hoping to get the exact thing that you're not willing to give. Does that make sense? That's why it's so flawed. But in any circumstance, career, business, relationship, jobs, our beliefs, our values, our model of the world, and our rules of how everything needs to be in order for us to be happy will either empower us to take life to a new level, or they will disempower us and keep us stuck. So if we analyze, and I want you to do this, guys, these trainings are about doing the deep work as well as just watching them. So if we analysed everything that we've discussed today in terms of beliefs, values, model of the world, what's causing our pain, what rules we make, what beliefs we need to let go of, what new beliefs we need to create, and we've drawn that line, as I said, and we're ready to change things and move forwards. How do we change it? Because it's quite easy to state all that stuff, isn't it? So you've written down, you've watched last week's training, you've really looked deep into your values, you've looked deep into your model of the world, you've looked deep into your beliefs, you've looked deep into the behavioural patterns you're running, you've looked deep into what you need to do more of and what you need to stop doing. You've looked deep into the quality of your questions that you're asking yourself, because you know whatever you ask your mind, it will give you the answers. And you've realised there's a whole lot of shit in there that ain't working for you. Because that's what happened to me when I did it. There's a whole load of beliefs that I'm running here that simply aren't working for me. But yes, my screen time is down 9%. First win of the day. There's a whole host of actions that aren't working for me. So how do you change these beliefs that aren't working for you? How do you change your narrative? How do you change the story? Now, I want you to start right now by thinking of one. I want you to think of a self-limiting belief. I want you to think of a rule that you need to let go of. I want you to think of a question you keep asking yourself, which is the wrong question. I want you to think of the number one belief that's probably holding you back. Do you know what mine is? I'll never be happy in a relationship. Imagine taking that fucking belief into a new relationship. Yours might be, I'll never lose weight. Yours might be, everyone I love always hurts me. Yours might be, I'm not clever enough to do that job. Yours might be, everyone in our family's always been big. Yours might be, I've tried everything I can do to lose weight. Yours might be, I could never run a marathon. Listen, yours aren't mine. I'm just holding up this mirror again. Be honest with yourself. Get clear. What are the self-limiting beliefs that are really holding you back? And we change it by having the intention to change it. How many times have you heard me say that? Every morning, place your attention on your intention. Your beliefs, rules, and model of the world, if you need them to move from disempowered to empowered, aren't just going to change without you having your attention on it. You're just going to keep going round running the same patterns, the same narratives and the same stories until you end up dead. And I don't want that for any of you. So if you believe you're overweight and you'll never lose it, guess what? You never will. Back to Henry's quote running through every training again, aren't we? But guess what? Sensitive snowflakes don't get triggered. The reason why you do it is because it avoids you doing the fucking work. End of. And yeah, I'll put an F-bomb in there for a reason for it to hit home. It's easy to tell yourself the story about how you'll never lose weight, how nothing ever works for you. Because then you don't have to go to the gym. Then you can keep drinking wine. Then you can keep eating crap. You can keep making excuses. Because you've got this belief that it will never work for you anyway. So what's the point in trying? Honestly, we do this and I do this. It's a lie we tell ourselves to keep ourselves stuck, because it's easier than taking the action towards the change. It allows you to avoid ownership. It allows you to avoid responsibility. It avoids you to work on self-love and self-worth and being happy in a relationship, because it's easier to keep telling yourself the story about how they never work for you. It's easier to keep telling yourself the story about how you are where you are in your career and that's just the way it is and you'll never change and you've tried everything and X, Y bullshit and everything in between, because it avoids you taking the action. Most of our beliefs we've subconsciously built to avoid taking the action. Because like, oh, I can't ever stop drinking. Liar. You don't want to stop drinking. I can't stop sniffing every weekend. You don't want to stop sniffing every weekend. I can never heal my mental health. You don't want to heal your mental health. I can never stop smoking. I can never stop going out. I can never stay in a relationship. I can never be healthy. I can never run it. Just insert anything that you tell yourself you can't do. And try changing I can't with I don't want to. I don't want to insert negative habit. So I'll tell myself a story about why I can't achieve positive outcome so I can keep doing the negative habit because it makes me feel better about the work that I'm not doing. Truth bomb. How do I know? Because I've done it. So if you want to let go of whatever stupid, crazy, subconscious belief that you're running, how do we do that? It's the same as how do we stop drinking? How do we stop smoking? How do we stop doing insert negative habit? You can't focus on stopping it, right? Rather than focusing on changing a belief, you have to create the belief that you want to change it with. So, as an example, the belief that you're also replacing it with must be stated in the positive. So we can't, very often the brain can't process it in the negative. So what I wrote down here was, I no longer want to be fat because of how it makes me feel. I no longer want to drink, smoke, or take drugs because it makes me a bad parent, a bad role model. I no longer want to stay in this career because it's making me miserable. Same with the relationship. That negative, that's saying what you don't want or the belief you want to change in a negative mindset, and the brain won't accept it. So, the positive angle would be, I love my body and I want to live to see my grandparents grow up. So I'm going to start looking after it because that's important to me, because I have the values and the belief of health and happiness. And then we can build in leverage. Well, I'm going to stop smoking because one, I want to see my grandkids grow up. Two, I don't want to give my own kids asthma. Three, they deserve better. Again, a little bit of leverage like that can work. But again, it's not really focused on the positive outcome, is it? So when we're focused on the new belief and the outcome of the new belief and why we believe it, and it's all positive, it's a lot easier for the brain to believe it. Hardly motivational, is it? I need to stop eating crap because I'm a bad role model to my kids. It's not really going to drive you out of bed in the morning. You know, I need to stop insert negative habit because insert negative outcome. It's all still post on the negative. I want to insert new belief because it leads to positive outcome. That's how we change it. We replace the belief, just like we replace the negative habit. Just like if we're going to drop the dopamine of chasing women, drugs, fame and money, we need to replace the dopamine hit with rivers and jumping off cliffs and making money for charity and running marathons and taking on extreme challenges and looking for new opportunities. You know, we need to fresh air, breath work, anything. You know, dopamine's available everywhere. We can get it from different places. So the next way, once we've shifted this, so we've taken the negative belief and we've replaced it with a positive belief, and we're focused on the outcome of the positive belief, not the negative further pain of the negative belief, then we can start to create a little bit of leverage, and we can start to also strategically induce doubt. What I mean is challenge your own mind, challenge your own belief, challenge your own thoughts. Start to change I can't ever to what if I could. Change I don't believe I can to I do believe I can. Change I can't to I'm not willing to try because I haven't done the first part of this task, and see how that lands. Change I don't have time to it's not a priority for me because I haven't gone back and realised what my values are. Call yourself out on your own lie. Call yourself out on your own bullshit. Call yourself out on the same ridiculous reasons why you keep telling yourself you do what you do, even though you know it's having a negative impact on your life. Because all of them, all the beliefs that you've created that are negative are false. And all of the beliefs that are negative and false, you can create with positive ones. Just by switching I can't to I can. Just by switching I won't to I will. Just by switching what if to even if, and asking better questions. Because guess what? Here's the big kicker in this training. If you're really going to call yourself out on your own lies so you can move forward, that's exactly what they are. Anything you currently don't believe you can achieve, you've already achieved harder things. You've just forgotten. Two hardest things in the world you'll ever learn to do: walk and talk. And you nailed all those as a fucking baby. So why are you acting like one now? You didn't moan when you were 2 years old. You didn't fall over 10 times and then say, oh, I can't do it, it's different for me. Everyone else in the world's better at walking than me. It's different for them. They had walking lessons. Or you didn't give up the first time you couldn't string a sentence together. Watching Logan now is so empowering. As you guys know, he's still not fully verbal. He's nearly 6. Tell you what, he's not giving up. He's not telling the story about how it's different for him and everyone else at school was talking at 3 years old and he can't, and throwing himself a massive pity party and creating a belief that he'll never be able to talk like they talk, he just cracks on. So anything you currently believe you can't achieve, you've already achieved tougher. So stop lying. Believe you can, because you can, if you're willing to change your beliefs and values and rules, and stop telling yourself the same story about why it's different, because the reality is it's easier and it stops you doing the work. I'm not going to go on about that anymore. But so the next good question we can ask ourselves is, rather than the outcome, because we've changed the belief and we've realized it's a journey, not a destination, it's a process, not a prize. So the belief that you're currently holding on to, what would need to happen in order for you to change it? Well, if it was fat loss and you don't believe you can lose weight, then you just maybe need to start exercising consistently. You maybe just need to eat healthily. You maybe need to be accountable. You maybe need to reduce your drinking. And when you do all of those things and you're focused on the process, not the prize and the outcome that you don't think you can't get because of the self-belief, false belief, then all of a sudden things might become a little bit clearer. Maybe if I change the belief of going into a relationship and realizing I am lovable and I'll give my love freely and easily with no fear of getting hurt because that's completely out of my control, maybe that relationship might start to shape up a little bit differently. Maybe if I took the emphasis off of the outcome, maybe if I took the emphasis off of needing someone to be happy, maybe if I took the emphasis off all of that and just focused on enjoying what's going on, enjoying things in the moment, being present. But, you know, is it really that hard to exercise consistently? Eat a little bit more healthy, stop drinking? Not really, is it? Not as hard as learning to walk, not as hard as learning to talk. So everything in your life that you currently believe is too hard, I'm going to put forward is actually a lie. What you mean is the beliefs and the values that you have become so ingrained in your identity, and it's not your fault. You've probably been running the patterns for 30, 40, 50 plus years for some people. It's going to be hard and difficult to change, so I won't do them because I'll choose the easy road of saying the same. That's where we're at. It's not about the task and how hard it is and how difficult it is and whether or not you have the skills, you know, the empowerment, the strength to do it. You do. Because the 2-year-old you did. So again, better questions. So again, ask yourself today, what are you currently not doing in your life? Because you've created a false belief that you can't. That is a freaking great question. Answer that deeply, and then we'll crush the belief. We'll challenge the belief. We'll look for evidence for the belief, because most of them aren't true. And I want you to change them so badly. So again, that question, what are you currently not doing in your life because you've created a false belief that you can't? And then here is an absolute cracker. So we've talked about one, finding the evidence that you can't. So if you believe you can't do something, show me the evidence. Show me what the evidence is that you can't achieve the thing that you want to achieve. And I'm talking proper evidence that could be presented in a court of law, not I believe I will always be fat. What's the evidence? What's the evidence of that? And we'll very often find that there isn't any. But also a big thing that we can do here is when you think you can't achieve something, reference either yourself in the past or somebody who already has that is no different from you. Most of you guys have read David Goggins' books, yeah? Worst possible start in life. Gain, was over 300 pounds at some point. He's proof you can. I'm not saying you're going to go on and become a world famous motivational speaker and, run the world's toughest ultras back to back. But based on how he was born into the world, based it on his mental health conditions, he's highly ADHD as well. Based on him at one point being over 300 pounds and hardly being able to walk up the stairs. If you reference him, how can you then look at yourself and say that you can't because of things that happened when you were younger, because of your ex, because of your family, because of your past? He's very real, very, very real evidence that you can. It's not that you can't or you don't believe you can't. It's just your defense mechanism to avoid doing the work. So when you believe you can't, reference someone who already has. Because this will create leverage to change the beliefs that are not working from you. And trust me, it's not about being harsh on yourself. But when you can actually laugh at yourself and just say, oh mate, that's bullshit. Why are you telling yourself that bullshit? It's easier to move forward. Then we can do what I mentioned earlier, which is we can connect to and create the leverage of more pain if we don't take action. So if you carry on running the same patterns and habits you're running at the weekend now for the next 10 years, how's that going to look? How's that going to look for you? How's that going to look for your children? How's that going to look for your partner? How's that going to look for your bank balance? How's that going to look for your mental health? 10 more years of being fat. 10 more years of not being able to walk up the stairs. 10 more years of getting pissed every weekend. 10 more years of making excuses about why you are the way you are. 10 more years of being in a toxic relationship. 10 more years of not getting handled what you need to get handled to move forward. 10 more years in a job that you hate. How's that going to look for you? And use that as leverage. Is that what you want? You're not happy, change it. You could go really hard on yourself on this. What's the worst possible outcome if you're a parent? Well, you could die. You could die without seeing your kids grow up. You could die without walking your daughter down the aisle. You could die without being your son's best man. You could die without being around long enough to see them go to university. Miss out on all those years or not be able to do anything with them because you're too fat and you couldn't even run around. Missing out on weekends because you couldn't handle your toxic habits. Your mood being terrible when you're around them because you didn't protect your energy. Not meeting your grandkids because you didn't change these limiting beliefs. You didn't change these actions. You didn't change these thoughts. And you carried on doing the same thing until you were no longer here. Or you were ill or diseased or unable to do things because of your weight. Fucking harsh, right? Fucking harsh, but it snapped me out of a few situations. It's changed a few of my beliefs. It's changed a few of my values. It's changed a few of my future plans. But now we flip it again. Can you now see how there's two sides to every spoon? Every spoon? Two sides to every plate? Two sides to every knife? What's the word I'm looking for? Two sides to every story? Two sides to every belief? Two sides to every set of values? I don't know what I'm talking about. Two sides to every set of everything. So, that's how we flip it. So we've diminished the false belief. We've used the pain of the continued process. Coin! Two sides of the coin, that's the one. We've looked at what we need to let go of. We've looked at how we need to be present. We've looked at all of these things in this training. How we get rid of old beliefs, how we create new beliefs. But once we've created that leverage of the continued pain of what will happen if we don't change, now this is why there's two sides to every coin. Create the pleasure of the new belief, the pleasure of the new values, the pleasure of the new identity, the pleasure of the new story you're going to tell yourself as soon as you get up, the new belief about how you're going to feel when you're healthy, the new belief about how you're going to feel walking your son or daughter down the aisle, the new belief of how you're going to feel when you're running around at 80 years old with the grandkids because you protected your health, because you ate healthy, the pleasure of being in the happy relationship with the new partner because you were willing to give all of your love without any fear of getting hurt, because you realized you just needed to be authentic and that the right people will love you and the other people don't matter. The joy of the business or the new career and feeling fulfilled and tap dancing to work every single day, in the words of Warren Buffett, because you overcame the fear of not being able to get your dream job or make more money. You know, the pleasure of having quit drinking, lost the weight, run a marathon, and everything in between, and then start to weigh them up. New beliefs, new choices, new outcomes, new experience, new personal reality. Same choices, same beliefs, same outcomes, same value, same identity, same personal reality. It all comes down to choices. The choices we make, the decisions we make, and the actions we take after making them. But how will your life feel when you swap the old beliefs for new beliefs, old actions for new actions, old habits for new habits, old dopamine for new dopamine? How will your transformation picture look? How will it feel? How will it feel being stood next to your son or daughter on their wedding day in the best shape of your life? How will it feel having your dream job? How will it feel having your dream partner, your dream body, your dream career? How will it feel when you're sliding down a slide off your water bungalow into the crystal blue waters of the Maldives because you worked hard to get there? How will it feel when you're taking your kids to Disneyland, giving them the experience of their life because you worked hard to be able to afford it and you were fit enough to be able to go in your 50s and 60s? Now, what I'm going to wrap up on here, because I hope that's given everyone enough insight. Now, we've talked in the past about, so we know how to create an empowering outlook of life. We know how to create new beliefs and challenge old ones. We know how to create new actions and the reasons why we don't. We know how to understand how we can use the pain of staying the same as leverage to change, but also how we can use the desire and the pleasure of the new result to get us to take action, and also how we can refine this down and realize there's two sides to every coin. And we can also then understand that sometimes it's not always about chasing these new things. It's about how can we just experience more joy in the moment, which is the main question. But also, like I said, the other question is, what are you currently not doing because you've created a false belief around why you can't, or what are you currently not doing because you have created a false belief that you can't? So the final part, where are the notes? So the final part is, how do we create an empowering state that moves us forward? How can we create this feeling every morning? How can we create energy? How can we create vision? How can we create desire? So what if we could create that state every morning where we believe everything that we want is already ours? What if we can create that state every morning where we believe that we are already enough? Whether we can create that state that we are lovable, that we are a miracle, that everything we want is already ours, that we are capable of anything, that you are the greatest human on this earth. And that's who you are. Imagine if every day you just told yourself, I'm going to show up today as the greatest human on this earth. How would you walk? How would you talk? How would you behave? How would you engage in conversations? How would you engage in life if you thought you were the greatest human in the world and everything that you want is already yours? You just need to stand up and do the work. What if you could wake up every day and state the belief that you're calm, you're focused, you're driven, you're enough, you're happy, you're lovable, and you believed it and you told yourself every day that you could, and you focused on your language and what you feel about yourself and what you say about yourself, and you knew what your focus is today, you knew where you're going and why, and you know what beliefs you need to change, and you know what actions you need to take, and you know what questions you need to ask. And you know that one of the keys is just focusing on enjoying life and being grateful for what you've got rather than obsessing on the outcome. You know that life is about growth and contribution. You know that if you need to want to get more, you need to give more. And every day you told yourself that you're enough, that you're ready for anything, that you're clever, that you're intelligent, that you're smart, that you've won 100% of your best battles so far, your toughest battles. That you've already learned the two hardest things, which was walking and talking, and you didn't quit. And you told yourself that you have no fear, that you have courage, that you're calm, you're focused, you're relentless, you're committed, you're disciplined, that you have a plan, and that everything that you want is already yours. You just need to keep showing up as the greatest human on this earth, because you are. I love you all. Have an amazing day. Stay unbreakable.